This brain hack awakens a level of intelligence far beyond any genius alive. Because what people call genius is not a blessing from the heavens, but a mind trained to obey itself. Most people wander through life ruled by impulses, fears, distractions, and noise. But Machiavelli would tell you that intelligence begins with control. Your mind is a kingdom, your thoughts are citizens, and your emotions are unpredictable factions waiting to overthrow your clarity. If you cannot rule your inner world, you cannot rise in the outer one. The first step is to silence the chaos within. This silence is not the absence of sound, but the absence of conflict. And when you command your mind to obey a single thought, you begin the process of sharpening your intelligence. For 10 minutes a day, sit in disciplined stillness. Hold one thought and force the mind to remain loyal to it. This simple act of mental governance increases clarity, and clarity is the foundation of genius. A great mind is not the mind that sees more, but the mind that sees what others ignore. Machiavelli believed power belonged to the observer, who understood the hidden patterns behind behavior, events, failures, and victories. Intelligence rises when you treat life like a battlefield and study the moves, motives, and patterns behind everything. When someone speaks, listen for intention. When something happens, search for cause and effect. When you fail, inspect the pattern that led you there. When you succeed, find the exact action that created the win. Nothing in life happens without a reason, and the one who constantly finds the reason becomes the one who predicts the future. Prediction is the heart of genius because it allows you to move before others even see the threat or opportunity. Machiavelli taught that the wise act early, while the foolish respond too late, and the difference lies in how they think. The fool reacts with emotion, while the strategist thinks in consequences. Before any action, pause and ask, what happens next? Train the mind to simulate the outcome of every decision before you make it, and your intelligence will rise above the average mind that lives ruled by impulse. Someone insults you, and the emotional mind wants to respond, but the Machiavellian mind calculates the benefit and the cost. Who gains power if you react, and who loses? You choose the response that strengthens you long-term, not the one that satisfies anger in the moment. This is not emotional suppression, but intellectual supremacy. You become unpredictable, and unpredictability protects those who understand strategy. To think like a true genius, you must learn to hold two realities at once. What is happening now, and what could happen if you dared to push further? Machiavelli believed that ambition without realism is fantasy, and realism without ambition is stagnation. When you combine both, the mind activates its highest intelligence. State your goal clearly, confront your obstacles honestly, and then create a plan that destroys the obstacles step by step. This mental contrast trains vision, logic, and strategic reasoning at the same time. These three forces working together create a mind that outthinks, outplans, and outmoves everyone around it. Finally, Machiavelli insisted that a ruler is shaped by the information he consumes. So too is your intelligence. Your mind becomes whatever you feed it. Feed it noise, and it becomes confused. Feed it distraction, and it becomes weak. Feed it power, and it becomes sharp, dangerous, and unstoppable. Treat your mind like a king, and choose your information like a king chooses his advisors. Replace meaningless consumption with books, history, strategy, psychology, and ideas that challenge your worldview. Every piece of information you absorb becomes part of your identity, and who you become in 5 years depends on what you feed your mind for 5 minutes today. Geniuses are built, not born, in each powerful thought. A great mind is not the mind that sees more, but the mind that sees what others ignore. Because true intelligence is born not from the amount of information one collects, but from the precision with which one interprets the world. Machiavelli understood that brilliant minds were not blessed with supernatural sight, but trained to observe the silent mechanics of reality, the invisible strings that pull human behavior, the subtle laws that govern success, and the hidden architecture behind every event that appears accidental to the common eye. Most people walk through life in a fog, reacting to situations without ever studying their roots, patterns, causes, or deeper meanings. And because they live without analysis, they become slaves to circumstances they never take the time to understand. But the mind that wishes to rise must do the opposite. It must be ruthless in observation, relentless in examination, and patient in connecting the dots that others never see. True intelligence begins the moment you stop accepting the world at face value and begin dissecting it with the cold precision of a strategist. When someone speaks to you, you must listen not for the words they choose, but for the intention beneath those words, the motive they hide, the insecurity they protect, or the advantage they seek. Words may charm, deceive, distract, or mislead, but motives never lie. And the one who trains his mind to detect motive becomes immune to manipulation and superior in social strategy. When something happens in your life, whether a victory, a betrayal, an opportunity, a setback, or even an accident, you must resist the ordinary impulse to label it as luck or fate or random. Machiavelli would say that nothing in human affairs is ever random. Everything has a root, and the one who uncovers that root gains power over the situation. If a success occurs, you must study the precise sequence of actions, decisions, attitudes, and opportunities that led to that success. Did it arise because you took initiative, because someone failed to act, because circumstances aligned, because timing favored you, or because you correctly interpreted a pattern that others ignored? Never attribute your own victories to vague fortune, because fortune favors the prepared mind, and preparation only arises from pattern recognition. If a failure strikes, do not drown in emotion or frustration, because failure is the most valuable pattern in disguise. Study it with cold objectivity, just as a general studies the battlefield after a loss. Ask yourself what decision weakened your position, which assumption blinded you, which distraction stole your attention, which fear guided your action, and which ignored signal warned you beforehand. There is always a pattern, and the mind that hunts for it gains wisdom far faster than the mind that complains. When life repeats the same type of challenge or obstacle, do not assume you are unlucky. Assume you are unobservant. Life repeats challenges only because the mind has not yet learned the lesson hidden behind them. Machiavelli would say that patterns are teachers that return until the student awakens, and once the student sees the pattern clearly, the challenge disappears, because it can no longer trap the mind. Every successful ruler, strategist, and thinker in history developed acute pattern recognition. They studied people, behaviors, alliances, betrayals, victories, and losses until their brains understood the rhythm of human nature. Once you recognize human patterns, people become predictable. And when people become predictable, you gain control. You can foresee conflicts before they erupt, identify opportunities before others notice them, sense manipulation before it tightens around you, and detect weakness even before the person tries to hide it. The greatest advantage in life is not strength or wealth or even intelligence. It is foresight. And foresight is born from recognizing patterns faster than the people around you. The difference between an ordinary mind and an extraordinary one is not the amount of knowledge it holds, but the way it chooses to act when emotion clashes with reason. Because a mind ruled by impulse is a mind that destroys its own potential, while a mind governed by consequences rises above everyone who lives trapped in momentary feelings. Machiavelli understood this truth deeply and taught that the wise act early because they think beyond the present, while the foolish act late because they respond only after emotions settle. Opportunities vanish or disasters strike. To elevate your intelligence to a level the world mistakes for genius, you must train yourself to think in consequences rather than emotions. Emotions are temporary storms that distort clarity, push you into reckless decisions, and cloud your judgment with illusions of urgency, pride, anger, jealousy, or fear. A strategist does not allow transient feelings to pull him into irreversible actions. Instead, he pauses, observes his internal state, separates the rising emotion from the possible outcomes, and makes decisions based not on how he feels, but on what the future demands. This simple yet difficult discipline is the core of Machiavellian intelligence. When someone insults you, your emotions push you to respond immediately, to defend your honor or to strike back. But the Machiavellian mind asks, what happens next? Who benefits from my reaction? Who loses? Is the response I want to give strengthening me or strengthening my enemy? Most people lose battles not because they lack strength, but because they lack foresight. They react without calculating, speak without reflecting, and move without considering the consequences. You must reverse this pattern before every major decision, and especially before every emotional response. Imagine the next 3 stages of consequence. Imagine the effect on your reputation, on your power, on your opportunities, on your relationships, and on your long-term path. If the action benefits you only in the moment but weakens you later, it is an emotional decision disguised as strength. If the action strengthens your future position, even if it requires silence, patience, restraint, or strategic withdrawal, then it is the decision of a wise and intelligent mind. Machiavelli would say that the world does not reward emotions, it rewards results. And results come from understanding the chain reaction that one action sets into motion. For example, consider how people often ruin relationships, careers, alliances, and opportunities because they react to temporary feelings. A single sentence spoken in anger can damage a bond built over years. A single moment of jealousy can destroy trust. A single burst of pride can cause you to reject help, sabotage cooperation, or burn bridges you later desperately need. A single moment of fear can stop you from taking a step that would have changed your life. Most people underestimate how much damage a single emotional decision can cause because they focus only on the present moment. But the Machiavellian mind sees the entire path, not just the next step. He knows that every action is a seed that will eventually grow into a consequence, good or bad, and the one who plants carefully reaps wisely. Therefore, to awaken genius-level intelligence within yourself, you must cultivate the habit of emotional discipline. Discipline does not mean suppression. It means understanding. When anger rises, do not deny it, study it. When fear emerges, do not avoid it, investigate it. When pride flares, do not indulge it. Analyze its intention. Ask yourself, what result does this emotion want from me? And is that result useful or damaging? This creates a separation between you and your feeling, allowing reason to guide the next move. The more often you practice this, the more natural it becomes, until eventually you reach the level of a strategist whose mind automatically simulates outcomes before taking action. To think like a true genius, you must develop the rare ability to hold 2 realities in your mind at the same time: the world as it is right now, and the world as it could be if you were bold enough to shape it. Machiavelli understood that intelligence becomes extraordinary only when it merges ambition with realism, because ambition alone is fantasy, and realism alone is stagnation. A powerful mind must see the present clearly and the future vividly, and then build a strategic bridge between the two. Most people live entirely in one reality or the other. Dreamers live in the clouds, imagining futures they never act upon, wishing for outcomes they never prepare for, and hoping opportunities will find them without effort. Realists, on the other hand, imprison themselves in the limitations of the present, dismissing possibility, rejecting risk, and repeating the same routines until their lives become predictable circles of quiet frustration. But the Machiavellian mind rises above both forms of mediocrity by mastering the art of mental contrast. Mental contrast is the deliberate practice of visualizing your highest vision while simultaneously confronting your present obstacles without denial, fear, or excuses. It is the discipline of seeing yourself standing where you want to be while acknowledging every barrier between you and that place. And instead of feeling overwhelmed, you become energized because your mind understands the path, the tools, and the strategy required to rise. This powerful internal alignment is the essence of intelligence that transcends ordinary thinking. When you set a goal, most people either inflate their ambition without analyzing the demands of the goal or shrink their goal to fit their current level of fear. You must do neither. You must declare what you want with absolute clarity, not in vague terms, not in emotional bursts of motivation, but with the cold precision of a strategist defining his objective before going to war. A general does not simply hope to win. He calculates the territory, the resources, the soldiers, the weaknesses, the terrain, the alliances, and the timing. You must do the same with your own life. State your desired future as clearly as a ruler stating his target. This clarity of intention immediately elevates your intelligence Because a mind with a defined destination processes reality differently. It filters information based on usefulness, rejects distractions, and detects opportunities others fail to notice. Clarity sharpens perception, and sharp perception is the engine of genius. But clarity alone is insufficient. You must next confront obstacles with brutal honesty. Most people avoid acknowledging obstacles because obstacles make them uncomfortable. They prefer to pretend they don't exist, or they exaggerate them into impossibility to justify inaction. But Machiavelli taught that a leader must always face reality without sentiment or delusion. A strategist studies obstacles not to fear them, but to defeat them. When you list your obstacles truthfully, your lack of skills, your lack of resources, your habits, your fears, your weaknesses, your time constraints, your toxic influences, your past failures, you are not diminishing your ambition. You are strengthening it. You are turning your future into a challenge you can prepare for rather than a fantasy you merely admire. The most intelligent minds do not avoid difficulty. They dissect it. They break obstacles down, identify the core problem, and remove them one by one. This is what separates those who rise from those who merely dream. Once your goal and obstacles are clear, the next step is the heart of Machiavellian thinking, constructing a plan that crushes the obstacles through deliberate action. Most people underestimate the power of planning because they believe action is more important. But action without direction is chaos. Action with strategy is power. A plan is not a schedule. The final transformation of your mind begins when you understand that intelligence is not a gift, but a weapon. And like any weapon, it becomes sharper only through deliberate use, disciplined refinement, and fearless confrontation with the world as it truly is, not as you wish it to be. Machiavelli warned that the greatest mistake a person can make is believing that their thoughts are harmless, because every thought is a seed that grows into action, and every action shapes destiny, whether you intend it or not. The ordinary mind allows weak thoughts to roam freely, but the superior mind governs its inner world with the same precision. A ruler governs a city under threat. Every thought is interrogated, every emotion is examined, every intention is measured against a single question. Does this strengthen me or weaken me? If it strengthens you, feed it. If it weakens you, destroy it. This ruthless self-discipline is the foundation of unshakable intellect. The world rewards the person who can think with clarity when everyone else collapses under fear, distraction, and internal noise. Genius is not born from talent, but from the ability to hold steady when others tremble. You must build a mind that cannot be influenced by the chaos of the crowd or the opinions of small thinkers. Machiavelli understood that most people surrender their intelligence the moment they face opposition, criticism, or discomfort. But the rare individual who thinks independently gains a strategic advantage, so overwhelming that others mistake it for natural brilliance. You must become this rare individual. To reach the highest level of intelligence, you must learn to observe yourself with brutal honesty, because self-deception is the slow poison that kills genius before it even begins to grow. The mind that lies to itself cannot rise, cannot lead, and cannot create. Machiavelli taught that a ruler must always confront the truth, no matter how unpleasant, because the truth gives power while illusion gives comfort. Comfort is the enemy of mastery. You are either growing sharper or growing weaker, and every day you must choose. When you choose sharpness, you choose discomfort, discipline, and the willingness to walk alone through mental territories the average mind refuses to explore. But the reward for this path is a level of intelligence that feels almost supernatural. You begin to notice what others overlook. You begin to think faster than events unfold. You begin to anticipate outcomes instinctively, not through luck but through relentless mental training. The world slows down in front of you while your perception speeds up, and what others call intuition is simply your mind recognizing patterns faster than their minds can process them. This is the intelligence Machiavelli hinted at, the intelligence that rises beyond genius, beyond talent, beyond anything gifted by nature. It is the intelligence built by strategy, discipline, and mental sovereignty. To awaken this state, you must protect your mind like a fortress, because every piece of information you consume either trains you or weakens you. The modern world throws noise from every direction, but intelligence grows in silence, in focus, and in the deliberate selection of what enters your mental kingdom. Feed your mind only what elevates it: books that challenge your beliefs, ideas that stretch your understanding, conversations that sharpen your wit, knowledge that strengthens your strategic vision. Reject anything that dulls your mind, narrows your perspective, or scatters your attention. A mind that is constantly distracted becomes incapable of deep thought, and deep thought is the lifeblood of true intelligence. Machiavelli would tell you that the wisest general is the one who prepares in silence before the battle, and your mind must be prepared in the same way: quiet, concentrated, and aligned with purpose. When you guard your mental gates, your intelligence begins to grow without limit.